The truth is that most people watching this video will work until they die. That is the grim reality happening every day across the world. But I don't want that at all. I want all of you to achieve financial freedom and retire, and this video will give you 6 ways to avoid having to work until you die. Unfortunately, what we know about financial freedom and retiring early is a complete lie. But this channel is about alternative routes to both financial freedom and retiring early, so make sure you subscribe because they don't want you to know this information and I want you to be completely free from this mess. So number 1, don't chase the hype. If everyone's doing it and everybody's talking about it and everybody's into it, it's probably not a path to riches. It's actually a path to losing all your money. That's just the honest truth, guys. Everybody was a stock investor or a crypto investor in 2021. We all remember that time frame. That was very, very recent, and that ended in complete disaster. And I remember way back during the financial crisis, during the whole housing bubble thing, everybody was a supposed investor in 2006, 2007, until it all completely collapsed, and all those people were left just completely devastated. Instead of chasing all that hype, put in the work to actually learn how to invest, understand the fundamentals of investing, regardless of whether it's real estate, stocks, businesses, whatever you choose to invest in. Learn it so that way you can easily spot hype runs like we get during those times. So then you can wait, be patient, and then actually make a lot of money and actually make a real fortune after all the hype runs inevitably crumble back down. That's where the opportunity lies, is right there. But you can't take advantage of that huge wealth creating opportunity if you buy into the hype in the first place. Number 2, know exactly how much you need to actually retire. Figuring it out on the fly is just a bad strategy, and so is just basically kind of giving a general roundabout number that doesn't really have any real math to it or anything else. Those do not help you actually get to a real number. You need to know exactly what that number is so that way you can actually plan and then work towards achieving it. That means figuring out how much your housing cost is going to be, insurance, health insurance, all the other bills. You've got to basically account for everything that makes up your life so that way you can have an accurate number that you're shooting for in retirement, so you know exactly what you need to be doing right now in order to have the asset base in order to get you to retirement. Which segues perfectly into number 3, which is don't forget about inflation. If you honestly forget about it, you may actually end up working forever. I mean, if last year and the year before didn't teach us anything, it's that inflation isn't this thing that just kind of was in the background for several decades actually. It is very real, and it is very, very damaging to your finances. So if nothing else, go ahead and account for it. I got it. You may not necessarily want to include a crazy 9% rate or anything like that, but you better be at least accounting for the regular 2% and maybe even be a little more conservative and do 3% in your calculation, so that way you kind of covered a worst case scenario in the event inflation becomes a lot stickier than we think it's going to be, or just to kind of head off any sort of event that may happen in the future. But make sure you're accounting for it in your planning, which leads me to number 4, which is have a plan and stick to it. Now look, that doesn't mean you can't adjust your plan and you just have to be rigid in whatever your plan set was. You just got to stick with that forever. I actually review mine at least annually to kind of adjust for not only changes in the market and with my investments, just changes in my own personal life, changes in things and the cost of things. Changes in just preferences of maybe where I want to be later on, or maybe where I don't want to be later on that I thought I wanted to be earlier. It's okay to change them. I'm not discussing making changes like that as you go. That's actually prudent to change your plan to kind of go up and to kind of create a better plan each time you do it that takes into account the current environment. But what I am saying is, don't go down the path of saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to change my plan a bit and I'm going to buy a Harley or a boat or something like that, and I'll just work an extra couple years on the back end there to pay for it. Not going to be a problem at all. Those are the kind of changes I'm talking about in regards to actually changing your plan, because what happens is, 1, inevitably, it becomes a slippery slope. You start justifying that purchase, and then, well, now all of a sudden we want jet skis, and well, it's just another 2 years, or just another year, or I'm getting a great deal, so it's really a bargain, and I can sell them later on and make the money. Whatever the case is, it will become your habit to basically just plan and then adjust your plan to accommodate spending stuff and spending money and buying things that you don't need, that inevitably end up adding not just a year, not just 2 years, they end up adding over the long run decades to the back end, because most people are not going to add in the cost of insurance, the cost of maintenance, the cost of upkeep, the cost of storage, and all the other things that come with all the toys that you have, and you kind of probably honestly lose track of the actual math of what it's actually going to cost you, and you kind of fall back in that habit of not following a plan and spending everything you got in order to keep up with what you're currently doing. Before you know it, you basically don't have a plan and you're no better off than you were before you started with a plan in the first place. Number 5, don't get emotional. Emotions destroy investments and they destroy retirements. I've seen it over and over and over again. Or decisions are usually made when emotions are involved. I mean, that's exactly where buy high, sell low comes from. Both of those are emotional responses to investing instead of investing with fundamentals. Letting a news article or a crazy media story change your plan and just cause you to completely flip it upside down is letting emotions get in the way of what's actually true and what the actual reality is, not just what the media is feeding you. Even family and friends will use emotions against you to get what they want, or to just, hey, maybe you're on this path here, this is your plan, this is where you want to go, and they don't necessarily like that plan that much. So they're going to use emotions to try to put doubt in your mind, to try to put fear in your mind. The FUD, right, that we talk about all the time on the investing channel there. That's what they're going to use in order to get you to deviate from your plan and do exactly what they're doing, or what, more importantly, what they want you to do. If you let emotions in on your decisions about retirement, financial future, financial planning, and investing, you are allowing failure to creep in. And number 6, don't be afraid to break tradition. Unless you have a really good pension, I'm telling you guys right now, the traditional way of retirement is not going to happen. You're going to work until you die. So if a pension isn't an option for you, you need to break the traditional route in order to retire. And that doesn't just mean breaking the traditional way. You're going to have to break societal norms and all sorts of other things that people are just going to look at you very, very strangely and look at you and say, what the heck are you doing? That makes no sense. Which means maybe you need to house hack, where a lot of people will say, oh, you're crazy to have a duplex where you have tenants next door, especially if you got young children, that's dangerous. Or if you're old, you're too old to have tenants and deal with tenants, that's awful. You're going to have to deal with those objections, which in reality aren't actually true if you're doing the game right and you're house hacking properly. It doesn't have to be that way. I've never had that. I've been house hacking for, I don't know, close to 20 years now. Hasn't happened to me yet, but that fear narrative will creep in, like we talked about, not letting emotions in. And then all of a sudden, instead of tenants paying your bills and making retirement completely feasible, you're now having to fit all the bills and work the rest of your life. You may need to look at some things like moving overseas, basically location arbitrage. Look that up, Google that, and see exactly what that's all about. Again, the same, kind of narratives and the same fears and the same everything else is out there, but there is a way to do that and successfully do that without all the headaches and everything else. Again, it comes down to the work you put in there, but looking, and you can even do that within the US here. Forget about going overseas. There's even location arbitrage within the US here. So you've got to be willing to break away from the traditional and change something in order to get there. If you don't want to work until you die, you cannot be afraid to break away from tradition, break the mold, and do something completely different that everybody else will probably call you crazy for. But who's the crazy person? The person that works until they die, or the person who is able to retire and enjoy the tail end of their life? The good news is this channel is all about alternative routes to retirement and financial freedom. They want you working forever. I want you to be completely free from this mess, and I don't care that it's going to be completely blacklisted by society. I care about the truth, and that's what it is, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about right here. So make sure you're subscribed, because they don't want you to have this information, and I want you to be completely free of this mess. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.